What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Andrew Cooper here, Fantasy Alarm. As you can see, no Howard Bender. Our fearless leader is off doing baseball. Can you believe that? Baseball during March, such a big, well, actually April now, such a big football month. But we're going to allow it. What we're doing instead, I'm having my good buddies on. Last week we had Tyler Oginski on, the #1 Fantasy Pros ranker. This week we're having on my guy John Arrington. These guys are my secret weapons. I talk to these guys in some capacity every single day, essentially. So it's always good to see what they're thinking. Let me bring him in. John Arrington, he's got his famous model, Beth, who we love and we love to disagree with. And he's got his new site set up, the Dynasty Workshop, right? So talk to
Yes,
us
sir.
real quick. Talk to us about Beth. Talk to us about the model. And then what we're going to do today, folks, is we're going to do a best ball draft with the Fantasy Alarm family. And we're going to put this tool to the test. I want to see what Beth comes up with. I hope you win this league just to prove to the haters out there that Beth has. But yeah, first, John, how you doing? And second, talk to us about Beth.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. Been a long time dream
Oh,
to be on with the Andrew Cooper. So here I am. Yeah, I'm so excited to talk about Beth, talk about the Dynasty Workshop. I don't even know if we have enough time. I think we only have an hour here. We need
I
at least
know.
8 the way I ramble. So it's not
Minimum.
going to work out. But uh, the very long story short. I created a model. I hate saying my model. I just hate it. Everyone says my model, my model, my model. And so a good friend of ours, FF _ Spaceman from back in the day, he's kind of off Twitter now, but he used to be all over the place. And he named Beth. He just randomly came up with the name Beth. And so I've completely run with it. It's honestly like the dumbest thing, but honestly, people run with it more than I do. I've kind of like
I
even
do.
I've kind of like tried to shy away from it at times, and people are like, no, Beth is your thing. Like that's your thing. I'm like, okay, so that's my thing. So now that I've built the dynastyworkshop.com, I'm just completely all in. Like Beth is the thing, and that's what everything is based on.
It really is a sneaky smart move, though, because if you say my model, people are just like, whatever. But if you say Beth, they say, what's that? And then
Yeah,
you can actually be like, hey, it's my thing I came up with is my model. Now it's got some legitimacy to it, and you can kind of show people. Now they're curious. They want to see. If you just say my model, they're like, who cares? Everyone has a model. But only one person has Beth,
yeah,
right? The
that's
fantasy
always been
football
my way. Just confuse the hell out of people
confuse
until
and conquer.
they finally just say, okay, whatever. Just here's my money. Just take it.
That's right, dude. So, and you were able to train Beth model to essentially do best balls. Now, the cool thing about this is that friends of ours, like Omega, has used the Beth ball tool before, but you have yet to do a best ball draft, which absolutely blows my mind because that group that like it's like like Tyler, Wyatt, Omega, me, like between us, we've done thousands, and I just assumed you were doing them, but you have not done one. How have you not done one? How is that possible?
I've literally never done a best ball draft before. This is going to be my first time. I think hopefully it'll be a good testament to the being able to use the Beth ball tool, which I just love saying the Beth ball tool. It's
It is
so
great.
silly and
Yeah.
stupid, but I yes, I've never done it. Although I've had many people like our good friend Omega King, like Tyler Orginski from last week. They've all helped me kind of like hone in the model, hone in the tool so that it actually makes sense, and it's actually spitting out recommendations that you should be doing, so that it's formulated right, so that you have the right structure of your team when it's all said and done. You don't have 12 quarterbacks or whatever it
Right,
is. And
right,
so
right.
even though I've never personally done it, there is some actual like strong data going on in creating the tool. But yeah, I've just never done it. I've always been working so hard on Beth and rookies. Like I do a lot of rookie work. I do a lot of Debbie work. I've always been so in tune with that in March, April, May, that kind of thing, that it's always been difficult for me to really give any kind of time to best ball. And so I said, if I can't devote a good amount of time to it, I don't want to devote any time to it. And so I've just never done it.
Exactly. Well, today's the day. Let's get in there. Let's get it going. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you guys for hanging out. We see you in there. Hal is drafting with us today. Ani Coop, of course, getting the shout out, dude. Ani Coop, this is our boy John popping in. Mile High Luke, what's up, dude? Mile High Luke also in the draft. So let's get the board up here. See what we're working with, folks. Look, I want to get this out of the way right up front. There is no dark mode on RT Sports. I don't want to hear any complaining. Okay. Every other website, if there's dark mode, we will use it. I checked, I looked around, I tried to find a way to do it. You're just going to have to, squint your little latchkey kid eyes and deal with a bright screen for just a little bit. Okay.
Put some sunglasses on, it'll be
Put some
okay.
shades on. It's like, we're going to be okay. So, John, you got the first pick. We're going to kick it off with you right away. Any surprises in the model, or are you just going chalkity chalk?
No, in fact, it doesn't even really go crazy in the first round. It kind of just tells you like, hey, this is who's available around your pick. And so I'm just going to go ahead and make it easy, and I'm going to take Jamar Chase. There's really not too much to overthink here, and honestly, you made it very simple for my first ever best ball.
Yeah,
draft.
it was randomness. Actually, you know what? It was I randomized it, then I moved myself because I was picking like 3, and we need to be able to talk. Is that sound coming through on here? Because if it is, it needs to be absolutely removed.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
I'm not sure.
I'll figure that out. So, who did it have second in the model? Because that is kind of the question of the day right now.
Actually, Saquon is second in the model, or at least second recommendation, I should say. It's all based on ADP, but there's obviously a lot of factors that go into it beyond that. So, especially once we get into more picks, it's going to start actually analyzing how many quarterbacks do you have, how many running backs, how many wide receivers, are they quality players and things like that. And it's really trying to create a balanced team, but also, utilizing the actual ADP. And then once you get into even further, it starts getting into stacking and all that, where it's giving a little bit of a boost, not too much. We're not trying to stack every player or anything, but like just a little bit of a boost. If you have a Lion already, or you have a Chief already, then it's going to give you a boost for Worthy, or it's going to give you a boost for Jameson Williams or whoever.
Awesome, man. I mean, because that's everything, is that you need to play the room. And that's the big difference. It's like, and why I always kind of object to just drafting off linear rankings. I don't think it makes sense. You're not actually building a team that way, right? You're not building out your room. So I really, it drives me nuts when people just go and go for a linear set of rankings, unless they're like a casual beginner type player. Then it's like, okay, you're doing the best you can. But for most of us, especially in best ball, you're building a room. You need to factor in scarcity. You need to factor in the fact that you need 2 or 3 quarterbacks, 2 or 3 tight ends. And at a certain point, there are no more viable quarterbacks. So you really, the fact that it factors in tiers is great. For those that might just be listening, or let me know if you can't see the board. So far, pretty chalk. Jamar Chase, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb. That lines up to some degree with the rankings I have on the website. Drafting us with us today, 2-spot Laker, 2 nice, work and grind, our guy Hal, JSQ, drafting with us for the first time, both Laker and JSQ. Guru in the house, also drafting first time. Hamburglar, who has drafted with us maybe 700 times. W257, our guy Rodney. Oh, I'm on the clock. I guess I will select a player now. I'm gonna reach for a guy I really like here. Did it go through? No, it auto drafted me Malik Neighbors. All right.
Hey,
well,
there's worst auto drafts.
That's right. I was gonna take Brian Thomas Jr. I really like the idea of this new offense, the Liam Cohen offense, with him being set up to be the slot wide receiver for 3 wide receiver sets, just like Chris Godwin moving outside for 2 wide receiver sets. But I'm absolutely fine with Malik Neighbors as well.
Yeah,
okay.
You can't be mad about getting Neighbors there.
Nah.
So the nice thing about the tool is, and not to say that you can't do the same thing in the app or whatever, wherever you're drafting, but the tool knows exactly where your next pick is. And so it automatically, as soon as I picked Chase, the Beth Ball tool automatically started suggesting the players around my next pick. And so I'm almost able to start strategizing or thinking, is this player actually going to make it to me? And they're not all going to make it to me. Some of them are before ADP, some of them are after ADP. But it's giving me players like T. Higgins, Jonathan Taylor, Chase Brown, Lad McConkey, and Josh Jacobs right now as my suggestions for the next pick.
Can you hit me with those one more time?
T. Higgins, Jonathan Taylor, Chase Brown, Lad McConkey, and Josh Jacobs are all my suggested picks coming up when it gets back to me. I have no idea if they'll actually be there, still available or not. And obviously I'll have to go off script if they're not. But, it's nice kind of going, well, how do I feel? Do I want to go running back here? Do I want to go another wide receiver? Like that kind of thing. And I can kind of make my own determination beforehand. If it doesn't work out, obviously you got to pivot, but you can kind of think about it.
Yeah, and again, it's always good to have tools like this, always good to have rankings, because you don't have to draft just off it, just like you suggested, and it'll help you really eliminate some players that you don't want, but also pull up players that you want and bring them onto your radar without you having to scroll down and find them. Like, for instance, RT Sports, I like the platform. We do a lot of work with them. Their ADP is notoriously not as it's not in tune with the rest of the industry, which is a good thing for us, especially when you're doing public drafts against people trying to make money. You don't want the ADP to be chalk. So, like for you, I love the fact that Lab McConkey is one of the next best guys there on RT Sports. He's wide receiver 41, which doesn't
Oh
make a
wow.
whole lot of sense. And I tell you right now, the rookies are going to be absolutely buried. Last year, Brian Thomas Jr., we did a bunch of these. He was like ranked in like 300. Like it was nuts. I mean, Roman Wilson didn't pan out, but he was ranked 1,000. Like you literally had to search his name. You couldn't possibly scroll to where he
Yeah.
was. You know what I'm saying? So probably for the best if you didn't get a lot of him. But Brian Thomas Jr., the people that understood this ADP and understood this platform got a lot of him, and they were able to scroll down and get him. So I got a wide receiver in the first round. I'm going to go with a little bit of a zero here. I'm going to see if your guy Chase Brown makes it to you. It was between A.J. Brown and Chase Brown for me. I'm going to go A.J. Brown. I think with a guy like A.J. Brown, you got to factor in that last year the Eagles attempted the fewest passes of any team in the league. Here's the thing. No one's projecting them to do that again, right? Like it's within the range of outcomes, but it happened. I always look at things like that and say, wait a second, okay. If he was that good on a team that threw the fewest passes, what happens if they're middle of the pack? Now we're back. Now it's wheels up.
And it's rare that it actually happens again. Generally speaking, they revert to the mean, they revert to average. And so, then if you're looking at the same exact offense, the same exact everything, splitting with DVS and all that, but you're just adding more passes, you're adding more receptions, you're adding all that. I love the AJ Brown pick. I, he's just one of those players that's like people are just bored with them now, and so like, well, I guess we got to push him down the board,
It happens all the time, man. All the boredom with the wide receivers, like Mike Evans, for 1,000 yards every year, but people get bored. But then you end up reaching for guys that don't give you what you're looking for. And then same thing with injured running backs. I find that it's been a value for many years now, going like the Dalvin Cook second round year where he went crazy. I mean, what are your thoughts on Christian McCaffrey here? Is that somebody you're willing to take in the second round? I know that Beth Ball did not have him on that list.
Yeah, and honestly, like once again, it also uses ADP to to suggest players. So if it's not a realistic person, it might even be off by one. So it might just be just out of range or whatever it might be. But honestly, it doesn't matter. Even if he was being suggested by Beth Ball, I'm out. I'm just out this year. You start talking about Achilles and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. Like I get he's back and he's healthy. I'm just out, especially when you're talking about the second round. I mean, I'm willing to forgive, you start getting to the third, fourth, fifth, sure, I can forgive something. But in the second round, there's enough good players here that I can say I can go get a Derrick Henry or somebody else and be perfectly fine with it.
Right, exactly. This is my first time doing a live RT sports draft on here, and it's not so bad. I kind of like the platform here. ADP is a little wonky. Also noticed Lake Show, his first best ball draft too. So we got a little bit of a first best ball head to head here. I wonder who's going to finish higher, our guy, Fantasy Alarm guy, Lake Show, or the evil Beth.
Absolutely. So I actually went off script here mostly because I was running out of time. And so I went off script and I took JSN there for that first pick. He was not one of the suggested players. And I'm actually running out of time here again. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm
I,
going to
I
take.
see Josh Jacobs went. Yeah, a bunch of the guys you listed went. I see you're dodging T. Higgins despite the model here.
I am. I'm not saying I'm out on T Higgins. And honestly, it's pushing Higgins up because of because of the stack bonus and everything. And I probably should have, but that's me being a noob with Beth Ball and everything. I probably should have taken him there. The other thing is I was using underdog ADP for this draft, and I probably should have stuck to RT Sports because honestly, the players are
It's
so
all
far off that it's actually difficult to like figure out who's actually still available and who's not.
right. I'll tell you though, the underdog ADP is especially this time of year. is just going to be more. It's going to be more in tune with what's going on. It's going to be
Right, and that's
much
why
more in tune with the industry. Yeah,
it's
because
just it is making it a little difficult to know exactly who's still available and who's not, just because there's, like you were saying, like there's some wild discrepancies between
oh yeah,
underdog and RT there.
no doubt. And the thing is, I set this up exact. This is a custom draft, so I set it up with underdog settings. So it's a 20-round draft because before the NFL draft, it's 20 rounds on underdog. Then it goes to 18. And I'm hoping they open their private drafts. Family, don't bombard them, but maybe shoot them a message every once. Be like, hey, one of the private drafts getting open. Maybe if they get enough messages, they'll open them. Last year at this time, they had them open. This year, they do not. So just to recap here, mostly chalk for the first couple rounds. Bucky Irving there by Fatty McFats at the 11 spot. What do you think about Bucky right there?
I mean, I guess it's high, but just looking at what Bucky did, you can't even hate on it. If he just does
Right.
I mean, I think he only surpassed like a 50% snap share a couple of times or a handful of times. So if he can just do that or continue to do that, or if he can grow from there and get more of a role, like just think of what he could possibly be. I love players like that. Like, you think people complain about Jahmyr Gibbs' role, but it's like, he's that good with the 50% roll. What if he gets more? What if Montgomery gets hurt again? Like that kind of thing. You can say you have the floor of the 50% roll when he's that good, but then you also get the ceiling of what happens if.
Exactly. It's like then, I mean, if they just came to us and said David Montgomery's out for the year, we would probably be drafting Gibbs at 1. I mean, he's drafted at 2 anyway. Like look at Kyron Williams. Like whether you think Kyron Williams is a good football player or not, he has a coach that's willing to give him every single snap. And
Yep.
you got to get like, and same thing with your JSN pick. I love that pick because that new scheme is going to use a fullback, which
Yep.
when you put the fullback out there, it doesn't take the tight end out. It doesn't take the running back out. It takes the wide receiver 3 out. And you see it with San Francisco. You see it with Miami. You saw it with the Saints early last year with Olave and Rashid Shaheed. You saw it with Bobby Slowick in the Texans. It's like it's one of those cheat codes that consolidates the targets. So I love those picks. I just took Josh Allen here because the way I kind of operate with quarterback, I'm not sure if you're the same, is that I have like tiers of guys. And as soon as I look at the board and there's no one there that I think could be the number one flex player, I will consider taking a quarterback. Do you kind of operate a similar way? Or do you always fade quarterbacks? Or do you like getting a quarterback early?
I really feel like it just depends on the year. Last year, I was working with Omega King, who's in the draft here, and I was working with him on the Beth Ball tool, and we really noticed there were so many value QBs later on in the draft. This year, they're just getting soaked up so early. So I'm with you. Like I'm perfectly fine. Normally, I am against taking a Josh Allen in the third or whoever. But this year they go so quick that I really don't mind it at all.
Yeah, it's so funny how the trends work in best ball. The year before last, the quarterbacks were so valuable that the 2 years ago, the quarterbacks were so valuable that the year before last, everybody was drafting a quarterback in the second round. Like the top, it was basically like if you got Jamar Chase in the first round, you took Joe Burrow in the second. If you got AJ Brown in the first round, you took Jalen Hurts in the second. Right? It was just like if you got Stephon Diggs, you took Josh Allen. It was like everyone was forcing it, and now we've kind of come back to reality. I think a little bit with quarterbacks like Josh Allen in the third. That's fine for me. What about tight ends? Do you have any philosophy on tight end where it's like I know some people that say I will never take the first tight end off the board, and then there's some people that say I don't like thinking about tight end. I have to get one of the top 5. Where do you fall as far as tight end goes? Are you just a value hawk?
Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, I'm not willing to go too crazy, but when you have the talent of Bowers and McBride, I'm willing to take them where they went. So like I love the picks where they went. In fact, I would have considered Bowers if he had made it 2 more picks to me. So
Yeah,
I have no issues with that. But after you break that tier, it's really tough for me to take a tight end anytime
right.
soon. So it's really got to be at that point you're starting to think value, and then maybe even worst case scenario. I don't think Beth Ball's going to necessarily let me go like without a tight end for the longest period of time, but I can always skip it or or avoid listening.
Yeah, yeah. The thing with tight end is funny is it's the same way in dynasty too. It's like those 2 guys are just kind of on an island of their own. And even in Dynasty, like I guess the next options, if you want to go younger, it's Laporta. If you want to go slightly older, it's Hawkinson. But like it's you don't feel good about it. You don't feel I've yet to find somebody who just feels really good about those two guys compared to the top two. So it is kind of interesting. Those are the two guys for me as well, where it's like now I'm into now I'll just go and wait forever. And last year, I made it to the last round of Best Ball Mania with my three tight ends were Hunter Henry, Pat Fryermuth, and Greg Dulcich, who is so I had two tight ends in Hunter Henry and Pat Fryermuth. But it's like you can if you piece it together, you're fine. So yeah. So as far as best ball goes, are you planning to just kind of play this straight, or are you going to lean into some of the? Because I know you know all the strategies, stacking this and that. Are you going to play it straight? Or are you going to lean into some of the stacking? What are you feeling, man?
No, honestly, I'm looking at the suggested picks here, and I think I might lean into it and listen this time. I probably should have listened to the T Higgins. Like I like Jackson Smith and Jigba over T Higgins, but I probably should have listened to the tool and went ahead and taken that because coming around here. Well, actually, Joe Burrow just went, so
Joe Burrow
it's,
just went.
it's not going to work out.
Yeah, there you
after
go,
all.
Laker. That's the problem with being on a stream is that they can see what you're thinking through that screen. Lakers not letting it happen, and I love that for him because everybody last year, while you make your picks here, everybody last year that won big money won because they had Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and T Higgins all stacked up. That was like the combo that won Best Ball Mania. The it won the big prizes over at DraftKings. Like that was just what you had to have. That doesn't mean it's what you have to have this year, though. It's just you got to paint yourself a picture of what could possibly happen down the stretch. I mean, Joe Burrow threw 3 touchdown passes every week for 10 straight weeks. So
Yep.
there you go. Did Joe Mixon, was that a model pick or was that an auto pick?
So it was not the highest one, but it was the first, or it was the second available. And then I'm finding out that searching Flowers in the search bar did not turn up Zay Flowers, but he was available. So then I found him on the second pick and drafted him.
Yeah, there it is, dude. And here's Omega King saying JA and Lamar Jackson opened at 12 and 13 overall on DK this year. What do you think about that, dude? I mean,
DraftKings, I mean, obviously RT Sports seems to have pretty wild ADP as well. But I'll tell you what, DraftKings ADP is wild, especially when we're kind of used to, or I guess maybe the standard is considered underdog or whatever you want to call it. But it's definitely wild, and it's kind of nice for like knowing our friend Omega here. It's nice for him every once in a while. He'll do a bunch of underdog drafts, and then he goes over to DraftKings, and he's like, it's just a different world. It's not even necessarily better or worse or whatever you want to call it. It's just different, and so it's not the same draft over and over and over again. And you could probably say the same thing about RT Sports here as well.
right. It's like I love mixing it up just to like give yourself exposure to different combinations because you're right. I did so many of those underdog ones last year that it was such a breath of fresh air to jump over to RT and just be like, and just get all my guys. You know what I mean? Or just get a different grouping of guys that's not even possible on other sides.
Yeah, and to answer your question from before, both of those players, Mixon and Flowers, were in the suggested picks. So it was showing me they were definitely up there. Flowers, Beth loves Zay Flowers, probably more than anyone else. So it's he's always going to get pushed up. But I'm sure once again, well, with Burrow getting stolen, maybe I am happy that I didn't go T Higgins earlier. So that's the nice thing about these kind of drafts and about best ball is it doesn't always work out for your stacks and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes you do just have to go get the players that you love and not worry about the stacking as much.
Yeah. So let me ask then, and I know you can't give away the full recipe. We're not going to ask you what's the recipe to Coca-Cola here, but like, why does Beth love Zay Flowers so much? Like, what are at least some of the inputs that Beth really likes?
Beth loves players that get open at will. And like Amari Cooper in his prime, like just think about like players like that where it just doesn't matter, they're going to get open, and that's how I feel about. That's how Beth feels about Zay Flowers. I mean, if you ever watch him, he's just electric, and he literally gets open at will. Then obviously you can talk about shorter ADOT and things like that, but if we're talking about full PPR, I honestly didn't even pay attention if this is full or half
It's
PPR in this
half,
one.
yeah.
Okay. But in obviously in dynasty leagues and things like that, if we're talking full PPR, especially, you're a lot of times you're getting 8, 9 catches, even though it's a low volume offense, just because he is the offense. He is the guy, and so Beth really falls in love with those players, right or wrong. It just if a player can get open at will, Beth tends to love them.
That's excellent. Actually, I'm just double checking here. I think it is. No, it's actually full PPR. Sorry about that. Then don't want to mislead anybody here. So yeah, full
Okay.
PPR.
There you go, even better. How are you feeling about that Najee pick? You falling in love with the landing spot?
No, I am, but I did not want him. I wanted Kenneth Walker. My guy Rodney took Kenneth Walker. I'm actually really excited for the scheme that our guy Clint Kubiak's bringing over. He's bringing over Dennison and the whole gang. They're going to use the fullback. I think that scheme's really makes it really easy on the running back. Right? You look at yards before contact. For like the leaders have been guys like Christian McCaffrey and Devon Achane and Alvin Kamara had his best yards before contact that he's had in a long time. Last year, he was actually on pace for 1,000 rushing yards for the first time ever because it just when you use a fullback and when you use that scheme with all the duo blocking, it really opens things up. So I wanted Kenneth Walker. I'm going with Najee Harris. I went with Najee Harris because of the narratives. Everybody knows, you know, oh, they want to run the football, but I can see how that could blow back a little bit. I don't know. Where are you at with Najee?
I'm a pretty big fan, especially where he's going. I
Okay,
mean,
good.
you think about who's going after him. Tony Pollard, James Conner, both have injury concerns. We definitely don't have injury concerns with Najee. Obviously, any running back can get hurt at any time, but it's definitely not a concern that we have. Quinshon Judkins is a rookie. We have no idea where he's going to be. So these players that are going after you took Najee, I'm definitely not taking them over him. Obviously, we can talk about the players that went ahead of him. But I think you made the right call. It was just the right time to make that pick. And I think no matter what, if they draft someone, if they do anything, Najee is going to have a pretty substantial role in that offense, and we just don't have to worry about that.
Right, exactly. I mean, they didn't pay him a crazy amount of money, but as far as the free agent running backs go, he essentially got the most, and it really is the perfect landing spot for what he does. So I'm pretty excited. And again, this is where the ADP gets kind of crazy on here because like J.K. Dobbins should not be going where he's going here. There's other guys that are
Mm-mm.
much better options than that. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
go
that has to be. Was that an auto pick,
who?
J.K. Dobbins, or is that just who's
No, he's
available?
just next in the queue. So
Oh, okay,
so I know that unfortunately our guy here, um, I believe it's supposed to be, yeah, Icy through, who's supposed to be team 5, had an issue with his email, couldn't get in. So that
gotcha.
team is cleaning up a lot of the auto picks that we don't necessarily want. So he's
Gotcha.
probably gonna if things go according to plan, he's probably gonna end up with that thing. And again, that's why we didn't put any money on this one. We usually do like $5, but with
Sure.
our, when we do underdog, we'll do like $5. Winner gets 60. And you also in our Discord, you get like the most important part of it is you get like little we do trophies and stuff. So if you join, if you just play, you get a medal. If you win one, you get a trophy. If you win multiple, you get a crown. If you win 5,
Ooh.
you get a diamond. No one's got the diamond yet. And what's funny is that the guy who's won the most, besides myself, is our guy Jack Sensen, Jack Straw. He's won 3. They just made underdog illegal in New York City. So
Oh man.
I know we're gonna run more on different sites to get him in and make sure he's still there. But
You
everybody out
really pulled
there,
some strings to make sure
I,
that you kept the top honor, huh?
I did. I hit up New York and I was like, "Look, this guy's catching me. I gotta put yeah." So I rug pulled him. I called in some favors, and folks in the Fantasy Alarm family, you now have a shot at the top. So I'm gonna let you get your queue and everything all set up. I'll just do a quick recap of some of the teams here, and then we'll talk about your picks. I actually want to talk about one specific player as well, if we have a second. But so work and grind here. Gibbs, Bowers, Lamar Jackson, Rashi Rice, Roma Dunze, Aaron Jones. I talk to Hal fairly often. He is a Lions fan, so Gibbs there to him is obviously a great pick. He took a lot of guys that I like as well. We have a good chat. JSQ, Saquon Barkley, Jonathan Taylor start so strong. Then Ladd McConkey, Mike Evans, Devontae Smith, Travion Henderson, which Henderson lands. I asked you, John, and I know you got to make your picks here, but I asked John, and I was like, dude, where's the best? Who's the best back to go to the Broncos? Because Joe Lombardi loves throwing it to the running back, and your answer right away was Trey, right? You were like Travion Henderson, that's the guy. Unless you were messing with me, because sometimes I can't tell with you, John. Sometimes I ask you a question and I can't tell. So like I asked you that question and you immediately said Travion Henderson. And I was like, is he messing with me or is that the right answer?
No, that's very fair. I am very sarcastic, so that's extremely fair.
I never know. I was like, is he screwing me? Because I'm like, this guy's either the perfect fit or he's the worst fit. So once I looked into it, I did realize you were.
Don't joke about, and Travion is a player I just won't joke about. I love him to death. He honestly, he's been my RB1 in this class for the last 3 years, and like really nothing has ever changed until Genty really squeaked him out like this year. Just like when Genty put up the year that he did, it was very difficult to be like, all right, when you're talking about what the NFL's thinking, what everyone's thinking, it's hard to not have Genty at 1. But I will say that Travion is so close to Genty, and not everyone would be willing to admit that.
Yeah. I mean, like he's a beast. Do you have him ahead of Hampton?
So I essentially have Hampton and Travion tied. In fact, all three of them are really in that tier 1 to where I'm like, I honestly, if I can get any of those 3 players, I'm fine. And like, if you're talking about rookie drafts and things like that, like I would easily be willing to trade back, gain value and do all that and get a Travion or get a Hampton or whoever is still available there. And miss out on Genty, and like I said, a lot of people are just so sold like Genty's the only guy that could possibly be the 101, and I'm definitely not there.
Yeah, I have it right now. I do have Genty in his own tier, but I have the other 2 in the same tier 2, and it's getting pretty close to me. So maybe I'll have to reevaluate. There's still, as you know, I like to say, and you hate, there's still plenty of time. Folks out there, don't worry. If you need to do your your rankings, you can do them the night of. You can do them the day after the draft if you want. Just, you know what? Pop around the internet, pop over Fantasy Line. We'll have rankings up there. I know you hate when I say that. But yeah, because John, folks, if you don't follow John on Twitter at Dynasty Coach A, make sure you are following him because he has some great takes for Dynasty, for everything. And I always encourage you to tweet more because you have so much information and you never tweet. Nobody's on on Twitter doing less tweeting than you. Like nobody's on it more tweeting less than you are.
Like, that might actually be the God honest truth.
It's true.
I'm on Twitter 99.9% of the day, and yet somehow I tweet like once every 3 days. So.
You're just in the DMs, just like dropping knowledge and sharing info and stuff. And it's just like, I'm just like, dude, you got just tweet some of that every once in a while. So that's my challenge to you, dude. Share some more of your information because you have a lot of it. And you've been better lately. I know it must have killed you to do the self-promotion tweet the other day. I saw that and I was like, this is not John.
No, I'm not in my element here.
No. But hey, you got good stuff, man. So you might as well promote it, dude.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, we got another first-time drafter here. I forgot Special K. I got Kevin Russell. Let's check his team out.
Nice.
Here he is here. What do you think? What does Beth think? I know some of these names Beth mentioned. I mean, Puka Nacua, Josh Jacobs, and T. Higgins. You had those. You mentioned Josh Jacobs and T. Higgins back at the end of round 1, and he got them both. Garrett Wilson, Tony Pollard, Baker Mayfield, David Njoku. What do you think about that? It's a pretty well-rounded start.
Yeah, I'm loving it. I mean, I love Baker as your QB1, especially where he got him. I was definitely considering Baker if he made it back to me. He did not. And Jacobs, Puka, yeah. I mean, he's got a solid team. Garrett G. Will as your wide receiver 1/wide receiver 2, however you want to think about Puka and G. Will. You just have a solid start there. And then getting Higgins as your 3. I don't necessarily love Higgins as a 2 because he's so wild. He can obviously win you a week, but he's been known to disappear. But
you got to remember, John, this is your first best ball draft. You got to put your best ball hat on. Those weeks where he disappears, they don't matter. They don't matter. So as long, you know what I mean? You're going to have out of 20 of your players, you're going to have 8-9 wide receivers. So That's why
And we have the Hill dynamic, so now we know when not to play
That's
him and
right,
when to
dude.
play
Yeah.
him.
Well, the thing is with this, you don't even have to. I mean,
That's true.
that's why your best ball model is pushing him up, but your redraft brain is trying to push him back down.
Yep,
Is
that's
that you know
true.
what I mean? You're going to run into that with field stretchers. You're going to run into that with tight ends and running backs that catch touchdowns, pretty much primarily, which I also dislike that. I'm like targets, 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 targets. But in best ball, if a guy catches 10 touchdowns, right, it's like all set. You know what I mean? So
No, that's very that's very
right,
fair.
like
And like you
Mark
said,
Andrews in best ball was great last year because it's like
oh
you had
yeah,
other
especially to
guys,
finish the year. Yeah.
right? You when it matters most in best ball because you're usually playing tournaments. Like Sam Laporta, I mean, I hate to say it, but that 1 year of Robert Tunyon where he caught 11 touchdowns, it's like
Yeah, that
it's
was huge.
I hated him because he in your redraft league he caught in the championship week he caught one pass for 17 yards, no touchdown, and absolutely like nosedived anyone that had him in real leagues. But in best ball, a lot of people won. So different mindset. I took Travis Kelsey here. Where do you live on him? Divisive player.
I think he's going to have a better year. I honestly think people are giving him too much crap for what happened to that offense in general and the lack of time. Look at what happened in the Super Bowl. Look at how hard Patrick Mahomes had to run around just to complete like a 7-yard pass or do whatever. That offensive line was broken. The offense was broken because of it. They didn't have time to do anything. And as good as Patrick Mahomes is, he can only do so much. I really think if you get an offensive lineman or two in there, you kind of secure that offense. You get Xavier Worthy in his second year. You even get Rashee Rice back at some point, assuming health and everything. I think everything can be better as a whole for the offense. And that's going to help Travis Kelsey do whatever. Even if he's taken a step back, I don't think it's as bad as it was last year. I think the offense in general was just broken. That's what I always call it. Whether you agree with it or not, it's just a broken offense.
It is, dude. And it's like the shuffle passes and all that stuff are like it's cheating. It's like guaranteed points. The one thing that I worry about with them and certain teams is that the defense is better now. It was so much better when the defense was bad. And they just had to throw more. Same with the Lions now. The Lions, to some degree, with their defense getting better, I just worry they might not need to throw as much, and they might end up being one of those. The NFC teams that have gone to the Super Bowl the last 2 years were the Eagles, who threw the fewest of any team in the league, and the year before that, the 49ers, who threw the third fewest. They only threw 30 passes per game, and that's what happens when you have a good defense and a good run game. You don't need to throw as much. So I don't know. I kind of want these passing attacks with their back against the ropes, like the Bengals, for instance. Just terrible, terrible defense and and great offense. So that's kind of been the formula. But I don't know. With a guy like Kelsey, I'm willing to take him here. You just picked your quarterback and tight end finally. So your
Yep.
team: Jamar Chase, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Kyron Williams, Joe Mixon, Zay Flowers, Caleb Johnson, DK Metcalf, Jared Goff, Jonnu Smith. What are your thoughts on Goff, man?
Well, honestly, there was quite a QB run, the past couple of rounds, and so I was really hoping that Kyler was going to make it back to me. That obviously didn't happen. Would have loved for Herbert to make it back to me. I was a few picks off on that, and I'm just looking at it. And the tool was suggesting Goff as well. It was suggesting Kyler, Goff, and then a couple other after that. I think Caleb Williams was also on the list, but I'm pretty sure he was already gone as well. So I just pivoted. I love Goff. We know the offense is going to be great. I don't care about, the offensive coordinator change or anything. I don't think they're changing a single thing about that offense. And so I'm not worried about that. And we saw what Jonnu Smith did, especially in full PPR. I don't think anything's changing. They're going to keep that going. He was also a suggested pick. There was a couple other tight ends in there mixed in as well. Like Mark Andrews was on there, but obviously he was already gone. But Jonnu was on there, and it felt like the right time to go ahead and just get those onesie positions, at least get something there. But once again, the tool is built to give you a somewhat consistent team or balanced team, and so it actually did give me those QB and tight ends because I hadn't taken one yet.
Right. And the thing with Jonnu Smith, and I got to make my pick real quick here. I can't stop drafting this guy, even though he lets me down.
Who is it?
Michael Pittman.
Oh no.
Dude, Michael Pittman rules. Anyway, real quick before we talk about Michael Pittman, the thing about John Smith in best ball is that we typically want our guys to be a top 2 target on the team if possible. And with Jonnu, that really isn't the case because obviously when everyone's healthy, they have Tyreek and Waddle. But we have to remember, after that, we want consolidation. This team uses a fullback, right? This team uses extra tight ends like Julian Hill. And the other part of it is that Johnny Smith has the athleticism to break off chunk plays. So he's one of the rare guys that can have 40, 50-yard plays. There's a bunch of dudes it's just never going to happen for those guys like Jake Ferguson and Dalton Schultz and some of these guys. Like that's never going to happen. So like once you get out of that group of guys that really are focal points of the offense, which there's very few, I like Johnny Smith in best ball because you can get those big touchdowns, you can get those big plays, and take those, and you don't have to worry about the down weeks. So I do like that pick a lot. The Michael Pittman pick. Why don't you tell me why you don't like it?
I mean, honestly, I like Pittman the player. I do like Josh Downs better. So I think Josh Downs is kind of slowly taking that wide receiver 1 role, even though it's hard to say, because what that mess that was put out on the NFL, fields last year, we can't even say that it was a true offense or anything like that. But I feel like I've always been a huge Josh Downs fan. Beth has always been a huge Josh Downs fan. I remember people telling me, you said I don't put out enough takes and stuff like that on the internet, but I was always very, very vocal about Josh Downs is not just a slot artist. And even if he is, he's one of the best out there and he can make big plays and he's not just going to get you 5 yards a play or whatever. And so you add in my love for Downs and then you add in my disdain for Anthony Richardson and
Right.
Daniel Jones. And it's just really hard for me to fall in love with Michael Pittman. And that kind of goes with you need to be a top 2 guy in the offense thing. And that's not to say that Pittman isn't, because he definitely is. But what if they add Tyler Warren like they're talking? Now do we start having a question of who is the top 2 and that kind of thing?
Right. And the thing about the top 2 is that people got to understand that it's more like you, let's say you're going to a concert, right? Being a top 2 target on your team is just the ticket you need to get into the door, like to get into the building, right? Like you need that to have the upside. That doesn't mean you're going to have it because there were a bunch of teams where nobody did anything. Like the Patriots, the top 2 targets on the team, who cared, right? You got to get in, but that doesn't mean you have front row seats, right? It's a barrier to entry more than it is a guarantee that you're going to actually do something worthwhile, right?
Yeah, of course.
So that's all I have to say about that. I'm taking Josh Downs too. So the thing about Josh Downs, I wrote last year.
Nice, the double tap.
Now I
Big
guess
Daniel Jones fan here.
now I have to take Jones and Richardson probably maybe later on, dude. We'll see. 20 rounds, so I can if I feel like it.
That's true.
It seems like a bad strategy, but I mean, maybe I'll take one of them. The I wrote last year. I'm with you on Josh Downs. I wrote 3 players. I was like, these 3 guys were pure slot players that could become full-time players. So I'm grabbing them in Dynasty. And the players were Josh Downs, Jaden Reed, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. And Jackson Smith and Jigba, where it happened for him, and he was awesome. Just like Chris Godwin, just like CeeDee Lamb. I'm hoping Downs this year. I mean, why does Alec Pierce play so many snaps? He must be the best run blocking, X, Y receiver. I mean, just like, why is he? Well, the year before last, he led the league in routes and he finished as wide receiver 71. Like, can we just let Downs be an every down player? It's time. Jim Irsay, whoever's listening, it's time. Make it
I
happen.
completely agree with you. I'm with you. I feel the same way about Jaden Reed. There's a lot of these guys that just don't see the field nearly enough, and these offenses, the offensive coordinators need to figure it out. Like, get your best player on the field.
Right. It's like, just feel like some people are like, okay, well, you have to have a split end play all the snaps, and you have to have a tight end on the field one way or another. Like the Colts, exactly, are a team that like are rotating all these tight ends to just to put them on the field. It's like at a certain point, if Kylan Granson's not blocking well and he's also not catching passes, why is he on the field? You know what I mean? Like, I hope they just go out and get one tight end in the draft and then stop the rotations. Like, just use 3 wide receivers. And again, now they have Adonai Mitchell too. It's just Colts are one of those teams where I just wish they would do something different. Like, stop doing what you're doing because it's not working. You're on the clock here. JJ McCarthy went the pick before you. Are you in or out on McCarthy? When you look at the ADP for Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, TJ Hawkinson, it's like he almost has to be good or everyone's going to be disappointing, right?
Yeah, I think both the QB that I took and JJ McCarthy, I took Drake May right after McCarthy, and I've been perfectly fine with either one of them. I I honestly I love McCarthy. He was my QB4 in the class last year. And am I doing that right? Yeah, yeah, that's how math works. Yeah, he's
There
my
was a lot.
QB4.
There was a lot of QB. So QB
Yeah, there
in
was.
most years when you say somebody's QB4, you're like that guy sucks. But last year
Yeah,
was a good class, so QB4 is good.
yeah. No, I was just making sure I had it.
Yeah.
Caleb, Jaden, May, McCarthy,
Yes.
and so yeah, but I had them all in like similar tiers as well. So like it wasn't like it was a huge drop off. Whereas this year, like you were saying, QB4 is a huge drop off from
Right.
QB1 or QB2 or
Yeah. Yeah.
whoever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I have no issues. Not only I don't even get into the coach speak as much, but I mean it's hard to deny what Kevin O'Connell has done, and it's also hard to deny what it's hard to deny having Jay Jeff and Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson and Aaron Jones and
Right.
and all that. So you start adding that kind of stuff up. And with like my pick with May, I feel like we're gonna get there. It's not there yet, but once the draft is over, and you're a Patriots fan, or at least somewhat, Patriots
Right.
fan, and so I think you can agree that after the draft, this team is likely going to look very different than it does right now.
Exactly. And you want to catch teams on the way up and just got to hope that it works. Like the Panthers, they screwed it up trying to bring in too many moving parts with Bryce Young's first year with Miles Sanders and Adam Thielen and all these crazy pieces, whole new team from like patchwork together. And it didn't work. But we've seen teams take huge jumps from one year to the next. I got to make a pick here.
Oh yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead. And while you're doing that, I will say just to pimp out the Beth ball tool a little more, that both of those picks were the top pick for Beth ball. So Drake May, and then as soon as I took May, boom, Tucker Craft jumps up to the top because it adjusted. At that point, I already had two QBs. There was a couple of QBs that were still on the board, but once I took that second one, it actually dropped them down a little bit, bumps up Tucker Craft, and goes, "Hey, dude, go get your tight end too."
Yeah, and I know you love Tucker Craft. Tucker Craft is awesome, dude. Tucker Craft that's one of those situations where you hope they don't draft anybody because Tucker Craft could emerge as a top target on the team. You know what I mean? Like no Christian Watson. His father says he's probably not. He's going to miss like the entire year. Dontavian Wicks is not a target hog. Romeo Dubs has never had a 100-yard regular season game. Neither has Dontavian Wicks. As of now, Jaden Reed has never played 75% of the snaps. Like it's entirely possible, and they love Tucker Craft. I mean, even and you and I disagreed. I was like, Luke Musgrave is at least going to play the pass downs. Nope. I mean, Tucker Craft missed the entire offseason with a torn pec, right? And then they were
I
like,
was
still,
scared. I was scared.
I know, because I was like, okay, well, Luke Musgrave will at least be rotating because he's been the tight end all offseason. Nope. Tucker Craft is the dude. And when that happens, man, you got to move those guys way up, dude. So I was wrong. You were right. You're smart. I'm dumb. Tucker Craft is awesome. Get that out of the way.
I got him at what tight end? I don't know what 14. I'm not actually going to count it, but I mean
Yeah.
it was like,
It's a lot of blue. There's a lot of blue on there when you got him. So
yeah, exactly.
I got auto drafted Austin Eckler, so that's brutally bad pick. But what are you
Oh,
gonna do? Well, I was chatting it up. But what I was saying is that so with a team like the Patriots, and again, it's very difficult to fully overhaul an offensive line. But if you just get like one guy that's a difference maker, you can see huge improvements. And I will say the biggest example for me is the Rams. The Jared Goff's first year, they were terrible. The next year, they go out, they get Andrew Whitworth, they get Cooper Cup, they get Robert Woods, they get Brandon Cooks, they get all these pieces, and they obviously bring in Sean McVay, and they go from a team that wins 4 games to a team that wins 12 games. And if you look at Todd Gurley's stats, not just Jared Goff, but Todd Gurley stats, he went from like 200. He had the same number of carries and went from 800 rushing yards to 1,300. So
yep.
you look at a team like the Patriots, right? Like I personally am willing to take a stab on May, take a stab on Ramondre Stevenson with the hopes that with all this draft capital and still a little money and some guys floating around, that things can look better. You bring in Stephon Diggs, You upgrade the offensive line a little bit. The defense is obviously looking much better. You never know. So I'm willing to take those stabs. I'm taking. What do you think about this player right here that I'm taking? Tank
Let's see it.
Bigsby. In or out?
uh, I was hoping you were kidding until it actually went through.
I like Tank Bigsby.
I'm the biggest Take Bigsby hater. I was out when he was a
Ooh.
sophomore in college,
So
and
you've been out for I forgot you're a Devi, the Devi guy, dude.
I've been out for the longest. When he started getting pushed up after his freshman season, there were people saying that he was the RB1 in the class over Bijan, and I was just like, "What are we doing here?"
That's
And
nuts.
then his sophomore season, he kind of fell off, and so obviously that kind of talk fell off as well. But man, if people have always been way too high on him. I mean, I don't. I like it. I like it in the fact that like Nick Chubb went. Was that? Yeah, that was before you. Yeah, Nick Chubb went
Yeah.
before you. I don't understand what we're doing with like a 30-year-old running back coming off of multiple ACL tears and all that kind of stuff. Doesn't even have a team, and I don't really like that pick either. So I don't like the Tank Bigsby pick, but I also understand that we're in a section where you're probably not going to
Got it.
love your picks either.
Right. Yeah, and the thing with Tank Bigsby as a rookie, like I was because he was so brutally bad. He was making mistakes, dude. He even made a mistake where he like ran into the punter on like a crucial play. Like he was making mistakes in every way you could, and ended up way in the doghouse. But I will say this: he was more efficient running the ball than Travis Etienne last year, right? And with Liam Cohen, last year he had a pass down back in Rashad White and another back in Bucky Irving. And Bucky Irving was just running the ball much more efficiently than Travis Etienne, and he leaned on Bucky Irving. If Tank Bigsby's running the ball more efficiently than Travis Etienne, I see a world where Tank Bigsby could potentially be the guy. Like if they come out and play the way they did last year, then Tank Bigsby probably would be the guy that Liam Cohen goes with. Plus, he has no allegiance to these guys because he wasn't here. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't care that Travis Etienne played at Clemson with Trevor Lawrence. That was three coaches ago that these guys were drafted. So I think it's entirely possible. Here you go. Now best ball Beth has been shut off, and your rookie Devi brain is taken over. So talk to us about
No,
these
that
rookies.
I
Or
built
was
Beth, so she has the same brain. She
okay.
recommended the rookies here, and that was actually what I was going to say with like the Tank Bigsby. I think when you start getting into that section of the draft where you kind of hate the next pick, that's when you start thinking, okay, is there a high upside rookie that I could take? Because they might have the same floor between Dylan Sampson and Tank Bigsby, but I promise you, Dylan Sampson has a much higher ceiling than Tank Bigsby. And so, at that point, if I'm already kind of like out on the players around me and stuff like that, now I'm going upside. And, I have a decent mix of running backs here with Kyron, Mixon, Caleb Johnson, and now Dylan Sampson. So I feel okay going like more like upside picks. And Sampson is just that. Like he's a fast, quick twitch kind of guy that's going to, possibly be the next like Bucky Irving. I don't want to say he is Bucky Irving, but like possibly be that, or at least Bucky Irving light, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, and now is the time, right? Now is the time to make those stabs. And now that I'm looking through the ADP, there's definitely a lot of rookies that probably should have already gone that are still available here. So time for me to dig in on that as well. What about Trey Harris, dude? Because he's been somewhat divisive. Some people really, really love him, and then some people are just think he's like, meh. I mean, this class, I just wonder if this class is like just going to be one of those ones where we look back and we're like, well, none of these guys are any good.
I mean, it's definitely possible. And, Trey Harris has some question marks. The biggest one is, can he stay healthy? The past 2 seasons. Now, last year, or 2 seasons ago, he didn't actually like miss time or didn't miss much time, only a game or two. But I mean, he was just dominant on that team, but he played hurt for like 4 weeks, and you saw the difference. He was averaging like 100 yards a game, and then all of a sudden he was averaging like 25 yards a game. It was like a
Right.
very clear and obvious thing. Then you go to this past season, he's just obliterating everyone, obliterating corners, putting up over 100 yards a game, sometimes 200 yards a game, and then he hurts his knee again, and he misses like 4 weeks or 5 weeks or however many weeks it was. I think he played 8 games total when it was all said and done, but he almost had 1,000 yards with 8 games played. The yards per team pass attempt are insane. The PPR points per touch are insane. So if you're a metrics nerd like me, you're going to fall in love with them. But then you get the question marks of, was it because of Lane Kiffin's offense? Is the scheme just too easy? And it's like, you know what? If Lane Kiffin is that good, why don't they win every single national
Right.
championship? Like if he can just scheme any wide receiver open at will, if he can scheme any quarterback to make any pass at will, why aren't they in the national championship every single year? It just doesn't make any sense. So I'm all in. Trey Harris is my wide receiver 3 in the class. And like you said, he's very divisive. And so like there's people that have him up there around where I have him. And there's people that are like, no, he's my wide receiver 20. I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. And it's just like, I get
That's the
it.
crazy part is that like I don't get the argument against him. I really don't.
It's tough. I mean, he's not the fastest guy, but he's a big guy. So you don't expect him to run a 4.4 flat or something like that. So I'm
Dude,
not
so many of
overly
these
concerned
guys,
about it.
so many of these wide receivers, man, they are not fast. It's an art. It's a craft. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
DeAndre Hopkins is not fast. Keenan Allen is slow. Anquan Bolden ran like a 4.9 or whatever he ran. He played in the NFL for like 17 years. You know what I mean? It's like as long as they're within a certain, and I would even put Anquan Bolden's 40 outside of it, right? Like he's actually legitimately outside of the realm.
Yeah.
But as long as you're within this window, then I don't care. I actually don't care. So as long as you're within what's reasonable, then I don't care. At tight end, I do actually care because
Sure.
the targets are lower and the chunk plays are more valuable, right? Like you take away the 2 60-yard plays Tucker Kraft had, and he doesn't look nearly as good. But the reason we like Tucker Kraft is because he's one of the few guys that can land a stiff arm and keep running and can actually do that. You know what I mean? Like George Kittle, you take away the big plays for George Kittle in a lot of these seasons because of how he doesn't run as many routes as everybody else, then he's not nearly as good. Like the ability to rip off those chunk plays is huge because you're outrunning linebackers and safeties. At wide receiver, you're not outrunning these guys anyway. Some of these corners, like it doesn't matter unless you're Xavier Worthy, like it doesn't matter if you run a 4.4 or a 4.6, you're not outrunning anybody. You're not going to be able to truly outrun people. So
Exactly.
it's more about technique. Like DeAndre Hopkins is a contortionist. That's why it's impossible to stop him. It doesn't matter how fast he is. And how many times is the first wide receiver off the board been John Ross or Darius Hayward Bay or Henry Ruggs? Not to just pick on basically the Raiders, but like pretty much though.
All right, I'm interested to see who you take here. But to your point, I think a lot of people try to look at it like exponentially with the 40 times, like it just, you get that much better as the 40 time goes up. But really, like you should be actually looking at it like as like a checkbox. It's like, did you get faster than 4.65 or 4.7 or something like that? Okay, check. We're good.
Exactly. That just do that and you're good. The chat is mad at you here, Mile High Luke, and of course our guy Timmy, mad at you that you're letting all the
Ooh,
Trey Harris hype out.
sorry guys.
Apparently you broke the seal on Trey, but we said you were going to break out the secrets, break out some of the secret tools here.
I understand people are going to be mad about it, but I've been preaching Trey Harris love for a very long time, so I'm going to keep doing it.
Keep doing it, dude. So I just took RJ Harvey. I don't know what your thoughts are on some of these guys. We're coming up on an hour here, so we're going to finish this one offline. But like of the rookies that went within the last round or two. So we already know you like Dylan Sampson. Of Isaiah Bond, Cam Scatterbo, Matthew Golden, Jalen Royals, Corey Kiner, like of the guys that went the last round or so, who do you like? Who do you dislike?
I mean, Harvey's definitely up there. Neil's up
Yes.
there.
You like
You know,
Devin Neal? Okay, so talk to me about Devin Neal real quick before we go
Well,
there.
okay, so I like Devin Neal, but there's a lot of people. At least he's calmed down now. But like, there were a lot of people that were really hyped on Devin Neal, like especially going to this past season. Like he's the RB1 in the class and stuff. I'm like, no, I can't be that high, but I do like him. So I want to say he's like my RB6 or RB7 or something like that. So I do like him, and he's a solid option. Harvey gives you that really high upside, and so that's what I was saying. Like I really like those kind of picks around this range because I mean it's like a 99% high upside kind of pick,
Right. Yeah. I mean that's what we want once you get down to this group. Like obviously, if you're picking in the first round, and you're deciding between Genty and Hampton and and Trayvon Henderson, the goal at that range is to not look stupid. Like you're trying to avoid the Samaje Perine in a class that, like 2017, that was like the one guy you could have picked that would have been a bad pick. Because it was like, Christian McCaffrey, Joe Mixon, Leonard Fournette, Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara. Like in that range, you're trying to play it safe. Once you get in the second and third round of your rookie draft, don't worry about drafting for floor. It doesn't matter. All these guys have the same floor. The hit rates are now, 30% in the second round, 35% or so in the second round. In the third round, you're talking, I don't know, at best 10, 15%. Like, don't worry about floor. Like a guy like Xavier Restrepo, is that a guy that you're drafting?
Oh no, that's a
Right.
complete floor play. Like that's like fifth round pick in your rookie draft kind of pick. That's not a best ball pick.
It's like that guy, you look at what he does. He's not, again, not particularly athletic. He only plays slot. Like that guy, if he hits, he'll be Cole Beasley. And it's just, that's not what I want. That's not what I want from my rookies. Or maybe this guy he has some sort of special character that we don't know about. But like what I see as a guy whose upside is like Cole Beasley, Tyler Boyd, slot only type guy. And I would rather take a stab on just absolute like upside freaks. Do you like guys like Matthew Golden or Jaden Higgins? Like those type, like if you had to pick between those two players, do you go with the speedy guy? Do you go with the big bodied split end? What do you
I
what
think,
what more fits your model?
yeah, I feel like Higgins has the better shot at actually making the NFL. But obviously the NFL is going to give Golden more of a shot because of where they're planning on drafting him, or at least where we're assuming they're planning on drafting him. So like I prefer Higgins as a player, but Golden's going to have every opportunity, and he has the love of the masses and everything. So I mean, if you're talking about for dynasty and stuff, obviously, which is where I focus most of my knowledge, I would say absolutely give me Golden because I can trade him away. I can do stuff with that. But Higgins is getting his hype as well. So I can't I actually have them in a very similar range. But I know
So
we have to get out of here soon. I wanted to ask you, you made a couple of rookie picks after I kind of guilted you into it, but then right after your RJ Harvey pick, Anthony Richardson went. I'm 100% out on Richardson, but because of your Pittman and Downs
I
stack, were
know
you even thinking about that? Or, obviously we're
I
sitting here
was.
talking, so
I had him in the queue. I swear Rodney is cheating somehow. Rodney W257. Even though I actually let that happen, but he's sniped me now multiple times here, dude. With the Kenneth Walker pick, with the Matthew Golden pick. So Matthew Golden, because this is best ball, so I'm like, okay, I'll take speed.
yeah.
And you make such a good point about rookie drafts. Like you have to, because you only get a couple picks and it's hard to maneuver around. You unfortunately have to factor in perceived value into what
Yeah.
you're doing, especially in leagues that are willing to trade a lot. Perceived value is a big commodity, right? Like drafting a guy you don't like that everyone else likes gives you so much leverage because now you can actually make a move. In leagues that don't trade though, you might be you might be playing a little too risky, but perceived value it really is the engine in fantasy football, and it's really where you can find the ability to trade and the most leverage. So all right, we're gonna finish this one offline. Dude, tell us real quick, just tell us what give us the stump speech on what the tools you have and where people can find.
All right, I'll try to be quick. So it's Dynasty Workshop. I should actually be able to say it. DynastyWorkshop.com. And basically, I have like just about every tool you could possibly need to play fantasy football. A lot of them are Dynasty related. So there's a league evaluator tool that looks at your entire league, grades every player, every team, weaknesses, strengths, all that kind of good stuff. Then there's a trade calculator. Yeah, everyone has a trade calculator. This one actually syncs up to your league and to your team. And when you put a trade in, it actually decides, does this make sense for your team? Not just does this make sense as a trade. And so you just put in your sleeper username. It does that for you. There's a start sit tool. It'll literally tell you it downloads your sleeper squad, tells you exactly who to start. You don't even have to think. Like it just says, these are the players to start, and it grades it out. So, it gives you at least an idea of why you should be starting them as well.
It
Beyond that,
it
we have
never once last year said to start Stone Smart.
It,
No matter
it
how, no
did.
matter how many we plugged them, no matter how many times we plugged them in, it never told us.
I
to
know a
start
couple of my
posting.
leagues. I'm running like 12, starters and everything. It probably told me to start Stone Smart at some point.
We tried to get it. We tried to get it to work. I mean, there was a little window there, but go on.
Oh yeah. The Beth ball tool, obviously, we're working on today. There's a DFS tool, obviously more of an in-season kind of thing. I have rookie profiles on there of every single rookie. It shows you their good metrics, their strengths, their weaknesses, all that kind of stuff. I'm forgetting a lot of the stuff that's on there right now, but there's so much that's involved. But it's all synced to your league, your teams, things like that. And so because of that, I feel like that gives you that competitive edge where you are gaining knowledge about your league. You're gaining knowledge about your team. It's not just generic information thrown at you and saying, go trade for this player or whatever. It's like trade for this player because it makes sense for your team.
See, and that is so valuable. It's the next level, man, because you can find rankings anywhere, but you can't find rankings that actually help you with your opinions. So people check that out. If you want my opinions, obviously get a Fantasy Alarm membership. I'm hanging in the Discord all the time. We'll be doing these all summer, so don't worry about Lake Show Gaming. If you accidentally selected Jaden Higgins instead of T Higgins, we happen to with you Joe Burrow stacking Joe Burrow with Jaden Higgins. I just realized that, dude. But hey, don't worry about it because guess what? Number one, this was the first one of the year, so we did it for free. And we're going to be doing so many of these. Last year, we did 20, right? Every Wednesday, we try and get one in. Once Underdog opens up the private ones, we'll be doing a bunch over there. We'll be doing some over here. We'll be doing some on BB10s. We'll be having them all over the place. And you can get those shiny logos in our Discord. And everyone else that joined with us today, I'll get you your badges for participating today. But that's it for us. Make sure you guys are following John over on Twitter at Dynasty Coach A. He promises he will tweet more, give you some more of those good tidbits from behind the paywall.